Okay. We could take our seats, please. I came prepared. I don't know why, but yeah. All right. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Brian McCarthy, and as the school district moderator, I'd like to call this Merrimack School District deliberative session to order, and I request that you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd just like to remind everyone that the town deliberative session is Wednesday, March 15th at 7 p.m. here, and that the election day is April 11th at your respective polling places. I'm going to quickly review the process and procedures we use. They're no different than we've been using in the past. Registered voters should have a card. If you're not registered, you need to come up here and register. To get a card, it's what you're going to be able to use and speak. Keep the card with you. If you leave, either leave it up here on the front table or take it with you. That way we make sure no one's voting when they shouldn't be. I will be going through the warrant one article at a time. Each article will be motioned and moved to the ballot. I'll ask for a second. After the second, the motioner will be allowed the first opportunity to speak to the motion. After that, any registered voters may come up and speak and make an amendment or ask a question about the article. When doing so, approach the microphone in the center here, and when you are recognized, raise your card, state your name and your address so it can be recorded for the minutes. If you wish to speak a second time and there's people behind you, please yield to them and let them speak first. You'll be limited to 3 minutes. We can change that if need be. If you wish to propose an amendment to an article, please have it in writing and present it to me. There's a pen and pad up here if you need to do that. Once I have that, you will go back and you will read your amendment. I will then ask for a second. Once the second is there, we'll be discussing your amendment. Once the discussion is done, we'll have a vote on the amendment. The voting will be done using your card, and I will ask all in favor, raise a hand. All opposed, raised hand. It is a majority that rules, and if the voting is close, I will ask the question again, and I will have my assistant moderators count the ballots to make sure we get it right. We will continue this until there are no more amendments or questions on the motion, and at that time, the article is moved to the ballot. When discussion is happening, please be courteous to your fellow voters and remain quiet. No side meetings. Please take a few seconds right now, take your phone out and put it on mute. If you happen to have to take a call, please head out into the hallway and do it. At this time, I would like to have the school board chair, Laurie Rothaus, introduce the tables.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So to my right, I have the Merrimack School District Attorney, Allison Minutelli. I also have our Chief Educational Officer, Superintendent of Schools, Everett Olson. To our left, I'm Laura Rothaus, the chair. To my left, I have our extremely grateful for her help, Vice Chair Lori Peters, and our board members, Jenna Hardy, Naomi Halter, and Ken Martin. Behind me, I have Matt Chevenel, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Business. And then I also have Amy Doyle, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum. If they could just stand. And then we also have Pat Heinrich.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce the chairman of the Merrimack School District Budget Committee, Chuck Moore.
Good evening, everyone. We've had a wonderful budget committee this year. Everyone has been extremely thoughtful and very participating and very deliberating. And we've come to what I think is a very good budget. So if I could introduce the members. First, I would like to mention Carol Lang, who is not here this evening, but she resigned just before the filing period after over 20 years of service on the Budget Committee. Carol has been a valuable representative of the community over all of those years, an accountant by profession. She was always the number cruncher and the number cracker and so forth that lent sober discipline to the actions of the Budget Committee, and I'd like to thank her very much for her many years of service. In no particular order, if someone is here this evening at the table, would you please stand and be recognized? Shane Albuquerque. Shane's a homegrown boy, left town, came back and said, "This is a great town. I'm going to settle here and raise my family and get involved." That is the kind of community purpose that all of us can embrace. Michelle Bronchuk. Dan Coakley. Dan has also been a counseled elder who has brought humor and sober insight to our committee. Lee French. Actually, his name's Carl, I guess, but everybody calls him Lee. And Lee's been on there for a number of years now. And he also has been a very thoughtful and participating member, contributing greatly. Gina Groff. Gina's not here this evening. We've enjoyed Gina. She's always one to ask a question and get involved and understand what's going on. Michelle Mackey. Michelle has kids in the school district, right? That's why people get involved. And she very quickly took like a duck to water and wasn't the least bit afraid of elbowing in and joining in the deliberations and so forth. She's been a very constructive member of our committee this year. Mackenzie Murphy. Oh, come on, Mackenzie, stand up again. A little longer. There we go. Mackenzie truly is a valued member of our committee and truthfully a more valued member of our community. She's involved in everything, and boy, we really appreciate it when we see people advance and take on responsibilities like that. Rachel Papke. Rachel is also a very sober and thoughtful individual in our deliberations. She tends to be a little quiet, though. She has a lot to say, but she says it very quietly. And for that, we are grateful, yes. Naomi Schoenfeld. We really wouldn't do as well without Naomi's leadership. She has been the vice chair of the committee and an exceptionally strong educator herself and a contributor to the betterment of our community through a number of different communities and committees, and this time it was the Budget Committee. Ellen Wilson. Oh, Ellen is my favorite because, oh, stand up, Ellen, come on. Ellen is my favorite because she's the contrarian on the committee. She's the one who always wants to be convinced of something, and boy, she's a strong-willed woman with an opinion, and you better listen to her, and we have. Thank you very much, Ellen. Our school board liaisons from the school board were Naomi Halter and Ken Martin as an alternate. And I know they've been very busy this year. We know what our district has been going through, and we're appreciative of the advancements that our school board has brought to our district and to the conversations in our district. We hope to be working even more closely with our liaisons and the board as the next year unfolds. Budget Committee is the best committee in town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay, we'll move right into the articles. Article 1 is accepting of gifts.
I think that's actually Article 2.
Yes, Jenna? Yeah. I have a-
I make a motion to present the article as written.
Thank you. Second?
Second?
Thank you.
This article would allow the Merrimack School Board to accept gifts of personal or real property during the year, such as land. This article appears on the ballot every year to allow the school board to accept property on behalf of the district. If this article were not approved, all non-cash donations would have to come before the voters. This does not negate public discussion by the school board and would still require a vote of the board.
Is there any discussion on this article? Article moves to the ballot as printed. Article 3, collective bargaining agreement.
Article 3, I make a motion that we accept Article 3 as written.
Thank you. Second?
I second the motion.
Thank you.
I'd like to say it was quite a privilege to serve with our chair, Lori Rothaus, on the negotiating team with the MTA this year. This article seeks to provide a 4% increase in the 23-24 school year, a 4% increase in the 24-25 school year, and a 3.75% increase in the 25-26 school year for the teachers of Merrimack. It is a 3-year contract that builds off the momentum of last year's contract that this town so graciously voted for in order to become competitive in the market for professional staff to serve the children of Merrimack. Currently, compared to 12 districts in our area, those being Amherst, Bedford, Bow, Brookline, Concord, Derry, Hollis, Londonderry, Milford, Nashua, Salem, and Windham, we are from $4,000 to over $8,000 behind the area average of those districts. We compete in those markets for teachers and are in a dire struggle to keep what we have and attract what we need. If this contract passes at the end of the 3rd year, we will be competitive with the wages at the beginning of the salary chart, on par with those in the middle of the chart, but will lag a little bit behind in the 4th quartile of the salary grid. This contract will aid us in helping to attract new teachers and assist us in maintaining our current staff of seasoned professionals where we have invested district resources in areas of professional development and ongoing staff training. The importance of maintaining these seasoned resources is to provide experienced mentorship programs for the new people coming into the profession. We feel this contract benefits students, staff, and the community in our effort for continued improvement and furthers our school board goals towards attracting and keeping the highest talent of teachers and becoming an excellent school system that is part of the fabric and values of Merrimack and will allow us to compete in the future.
Thank you. Any comments on this article? Seeing none, this moves to the ballot as printed. Article 4, special meeting. Laurie?
Article 4, I make a motion that it be accepted as written.
Thank you. Second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Jenna.
This article gives the school board the option of calling one special meeting to discuss cost items only in the negotiated agreement if not passed by the voters. If we do not have this article on the warrant, we would have to petition the Superior Court to get approval for the special meeting. The court only grants such special meetings for emergency purposes only.
Thank you. Any comments on this article? Seeing none, moves to the ballot. Article 5 has to do with roofing. Ken,
I make a motion to accept the Article 5 as written.
second?
Second.
Thank you, Naomi.
This article seeks to replace 26,000 square feet of roof at James Mastrocola Elementary School that is 15 to 28 years off warranty and has the potential for failing. The consequences of not taking such action at this time could be deck rot and the potential for mold in classrooms. Sections A and P were constructed in 1999 and have been out of warranty since 2014. These sections are built-up roofing of tar and gravel that was applied on top of the existing roof. Section I was constructed in 1986. The roof is currently telegraphing potential urgent problems with the insulation below. There are areas where the morning frost has melted immediately adjacent to unmelted areas. This indicates that the insulation in the melted areas could be saturated from leakage at the surface. There are currently 2 leaks, one in front of the library and one in front of the main office. We have tried patching these leaks to no avail. Saturated insulation has no insulating value and can lead to mold problems and damage the metal deck below. We must pass this article to ensure that the current issue does not become an emergency that cannot be taken care of in a controlled fashion during the summer of 2023. This is also part of our multi-year comprehensive roof replacement plan.
Thank you. Any questions on Article 5? The article moves to the ballot as printed. Article 6, the budget.
Mr. Moderator, if you will allow me a brief introduction to Article 6.
Sure, Mr. Moore.
The Budget Committee would like to publicly thank the administration of the school district, more specifically our superintendencies, Bill Oslin at the head, Matt Chevanel, and Amy of curriculum. And it's amazing how much time they gave to us as a budget committee. They answered our every question. They were there seemingly as if they had nothing else to do every night that we met and required their presence, no matter how difficult the questions were. And I want everyone to know that the Budget Committee thinks we have a superb administration, and we're more than happy to continue working to make progress for the community. Article 6, shall the district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $88,577,992. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $87,169,047, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous actions of the district or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority vote required, recommended by the school board, vote 5-0-0, recommended by the budget committee 11-0-1.
Do I have a second? Okay. You good with that, Pat? Thank you. Discussion.
I'm very excited, actually, about this budget. For those of us who have been paying attention over the last several years, we've had some difficulty. And we all know that there are various contributions to those impediments, COVID perhaps most substantially, but all of the other unintended consequences that crop up when things start to break down a little bit. We're not unlike school districts anywhere else in New Hampshire, or for that matter, anywhere else in America. Everybody's beginning to build a better arm load and to move forward and to create the kinds of outcomes and programs, initiatives, and policies that our communities desire to have, that our children not only will reap the benefit from, but that we will fulfill the mission of an educated public. Henry David Thoreau always used to say that it's either the jailhouse, the almshouse, or the schoolhouse. Where would you rather put your money? And that it would be better for the selectmen of the town of Concord to throw a bridge over the Gulf of Ignorance than another bridge over the Concord River. And we're not that far from Concord, about 30 miles, I guess, really. And there are lessons that our predecessors have been confronted with before. We're not reinventing the wheel, but we are picking up and moving forward. And this budget represents our first attempt to do that. Knowing how one thing leads on to another, we have been trying to take into consideration a long-term vision for the school district. All of our problems won't be solved in 1 year. But let me just tell you what has been addressed in this budget by the administration and the school board. Amongst all of the other perfunctory things that we undertake, the pencils, the papers, the blah, 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 and everything that we do to keep everything running and keeping the doors open, heat, maintenance, all of those things. We are building a new softball dugout this year for the girls because the committee felt that that was an inequity that had perhaps gone on too long. It had been named for a number of years, but always shoved aside. And this budget represents equity in the way we practice sports here in Merrimack. We had a furniture plan for a number of years to purchase various cafeteria furniture that was designed to be comfortable for our learning processes. I forget the acronyms of all these wonderful things. Social and emotional learning, yes. We all know that it's a lot more fun when kids sit around a table that's round and can converse with each other, or at least be recognized by everybody and not invisible. We don't want kids to be invisible in our school district. So that program was a 7-year program, and it looked like it was going to become a 12-year program. And we finally said, well, let's just put $25,550 into the budget and bring it back down to a program that we don't have to wait 12 years to see a full rotation of that furniture replacement. We had $150,000 for a school board contingency. 2 years ago, when we had COVID, the contingency was put into the budget because we simply didn't know what COVID was going to do. And while we can't say that COVID is over now, there is a reduced need for a COVID-related contingency. But nevertheless, it could be a COVID contingency fund, or it could be a ready fund to replace an administrator that, for one reason or another, involved in an accident or had a leave of absence or whatever. Yes, there are other pots of money that could come to hire help in that regard, but you can appreciate how difficult and complex an $88 million budget is. And it's not always handy when you need something done and done immediately at the top level to make sure that things don't skip a beat. We felt that it was important to restore that contingency fund at $150,000. We're just planning for the future. There are those who said something to the something akin to, well, we have insurance policies, and that's true enough. But I know any time I ever had an insurance policy and I wanted it to do something for me, I found out that it required an awful lot of me before it required anything from them. And so this contingency fund is something that's wholly within the authority and the domain of the school board. Without a complicated attempt to find money when you need it. We restored the utilities money to the school district that were spent on the red building because we were given to understand that the red building was going to be torn down this year by sequestering unencumbered funds. And that will be a great milestone in our district to begin to be able to plan and utilize under the master plan how to move forward with various improvements. And of course, we all know that we're going to need a new parking lot, and we're going to need new curbing and new sidewalks and so forth. We are moving on, and getting rid of the red building was a very important consideration. So we're very happy about that. We restored English as a second language supplies, which I pointed out at one of our committee meetings. The very first English as a second language program that we had in the town of Merrimack was started in 1919 by the Reverend John Wright. The J.F. McElwain Company, who ran the shoe factory here in the middle of town, gave the school district a conference room in which they could educate immigrants and foreigners and to teach them English because of the value of knowing English and being able to function in a society and an economy that was unfamiliar to them. And we have as many of those difficulties today as I think we did in 1919. For those of you who don't know John Wright, he was the minister emeritus at the Congregational Church. He came here in 1918 and he passed away in the 1960s. He was a remarkable man that committed himself to the community and to the residents, and I'm very proud to have called him my friend. We added a halftime maintenance position for grounds, something that got overlooked in a couple past budgets and just never got picked up and dealt with again. So we're glad to have the support of those positions. Whether we can find somebody to help or not remains to be seen. But we have the authorization now in this budget for the maintenance, halftime maintenance position, which I expect would help considerably, given the grounds. We very often don't think about it. We've got a school in Reeves Ferry, and we have a school in Merrimack, and we have a school in Thornton's Ferry, and we have the middle school, and we have the high school, and it is really quite a brick and mortar complex. Kudos to the people that keep it all running nicely and so on. So that half position will be welcome, I think. And we decided to put something in, it's only $25 in the budget, but we felt it was important to create a purpose, because everything in the budget has a purpose. And that was the implementation of a master plan. We've been talking about a master plan for a number of years now, and it's unfolding in front of our very eyes. I guess we haven't actually heard the final report from the engineer yet, but we all know where it's heading, and we're good with that. And we shouldn't forget that when we tear down the red building, we're not just creating an unusable flat piece of land. The master plan should demonstrate where all of the utilities need to go in further construction in the future. And we need to know that now. I mean, I spent a good many years as a builder myself, and you need to know where everything is. You can't build a house until you know where the bounds are and the setbacks and all of the easements and the utilities and so forth. We've never had that. Merrimack just kind of grew like Topsy. And somebody said, you know, we really need a master plan where we can identify all of our utilities so that we know where to spend our money best in locating future development, parking lots and road construction and so forth. So we felt it was important to bring it to the public's attention, and it's in the budget. It's $25. It's not enough to do anything except to let everybody know that this is an important feature and initiative in our district.
Chuck, how many more things you got going here?
Is my 3 minutes up?
A long time ago.
Well, it's just the budget. I want everybody to have a clear understanding
They can read it, it's written. So I'm
of
just
what's in the
suggesting.
budget. That's all.
Okay.
Hey, you'd like me to move it along a little bit?
I'd like you to wrap up, yes, please.
Oh, well, I can do that, really. See, I hope everybody supports the budget.
Thank you.
I'll leave it to the school district to talk about the new positions and so forth that are a real credit to our district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bill Boyd, 139 Joppa Road.
Thank you.
Is it a point of parliamentary inquiry? Is it permissible to make a motion to either add to the motion or redact from the, cut from the motion that's presented?
Yes.
Thank you. Then I would move that the budget be cut by $250,000 with an underlying amount of $88,327,992.
Do I have a second? State your name, please, just. Okay. Thank you. Speak to your motion, please.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I want to thank the school budget committee for the hard work that they've done. And I have the utmost respect for the chairman, who I consider a mentor and a friend. Back in 2010, I got elected, and I actually sat there. And one of my former colleagues, who I sat next to, when I asked him what specifically am I going to be doing on the school budget committee? I don't have anything written. Hold on a second.
There's a piece of paper up here if you need it.
I'm sorry?
There's paper up here if you need it,
Okay. Do you want me to write it down before I speak?
Yeah.
please. Well, he read it. I mean, I'll have to read it again. Okay. All right, sorry. You're
Okay,
good.
thank you, Mr. Monitor, I appreciate
Yep.
it. So again, my former colleague, I had asked him, because I was new to the budget committee, I said, what specifically is going to be my role on the committee? And he said, very simply put, you have no control over expenditures, you just review them. You make sure that the expenditures being proposed, do they match up with the policy decisions that are being made by the school board at a given time? And the RSA 3214 specifically entrusts budget committees with the quote-unquote prudent appropriation of public funds. They have the responsibility of making sure are the policy decisions being made by the school board, are they being appropriately funded so that they can be implemented for the upcoming school year? And to add monies into a budget that the school board and the administration, and they've spent a lot of time interacting with staff, with their senior level administration, and determining what is going to be an appropriate budget that's going to adequately meet the needs, the educational needs of the community of Merrimack. And from my perspective, having sat on the budget committee, I find it, for me personally, a little irresponsible to raise X amount of dollars into a particular budget when it's not the budget committee's role to make those particular policy decisions. We have 5 elected members here in Merrimack that have been entrusted by the voters of this community to twice a month, working with staff, listening to teachers, listening to parents, and formulating every year a budget that not only makes sense for the students and the teachers and the parents, but also for the taxpayers here in the community of Merrimack. So the budget is the policy directive that the school board is seeking to implement. And absent an addition or a redaction of those particular budget, from my perspective, would be derelict in terms of what these 5 folks and Administrator Olson and his team have done to make sure that everything is adequately provided for every single child here in Merrimack. So I'm advocating and urging my neighbors and my colleagues here tonight to support the $250,000 cut, because state revenues, and I can say this as a state representative, state revenues already are beginning to drop. We don't know what the future is going to entail, not just for our community this year, but 2 years, 5 years down the road. We don't know what the impact of this inflationary economy is going to have on our community. So I trust the school board. I trust Administrator Olson, that they have done their due diligence, that they've looked at their revenues, they've looked at their population trends, and they've put together a budget that balances taxpayer concerns and balances the needs for parents and children in this community. So with all that being said, the school budget, in my eyes, is prudential. It reflects the needs of our community, and I would urge my community to support the original school board budget, because they've done the work, they've done their homework, and it's a great budget. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
So just so we know, we are now discussing the Article 6 with a dollar figure that's $250,000 less than what is printed. I'll read the final number when I need to.
Chuck Mower, 4 Depot Street. I'm sure if Mr. Boyd had come to me as the chairman of the Budget Committee, I might well have been able to alleviate all of his fears about what is and what is not the case. And I by no means want to engage in any ad hominem attacks. Bill supposedly thinks of me as a mentor, but there has been for some period of time here in Merrimack a lack of understanding about what the Budget Committee is and what it's responsible for. The RSAs clearly put the preparation of the school district budget solely within the hands of the Budget Committee. I know that there has been an internecine war for a number of years about the Budget Committee and the school board, but I'm not arguing with state law. We have 12 people over here who ran for public office who are taking an oath to uphold the laws of the state of New Hampshire and to fulfill their obligations under the RSA 91 and the budget law. It is up to the Budget Committee to prepare a budget. That's just the truth of the matter. So whatever Mr. Boyd or others may think about the responsibility of the school board, it does not lie in preparing the budget. That is the Budget Committee. That's what we're here for. 12 elected people. We're not people that don't understand what we're doing. We've been challenged often enough what the law is, and we have stood up for ourselves. 3 years ago, the administration of the Merrimack School District wouldn't allow us to hold a Budget Committee meeting on school district property. That's how bad it was 3 years ago, with who thought they had what kind of power in town. But sober minds have prevailed. Good people have come forward and have professionally upheld their duty and their responsibility to prepare a budget. And we are not gaming the voters. And I have said that time and again at Budget Committee meetings. It's not up to me to figure out what the voters will or won't pass. It's up to our committee to tell the voters what they need for their district if they do, in fact, want to prosper and succeed, not only this year, but over time. And so I rise in opposition to any cut made to the operating budget as presented by the Budget Committee after their thorough and thoughtful examination and consultation with the administration of the town school district. It simply doesn't make sense to do anything else and shoot from the hip when we have fulfilled our statutory obligation.
I see your cards over there. Your name, please?
Over there. Shall I get it and bring it over?
No.
Okay. Naomi Schoenfeld, 10 Independence Drive. There are many theoretical pieces to this, and I think they're well worth discussing at some other time. However, there are 2 points that come to mind for me, both as a resident and as a member of the Budget Committee. The first is that cuts are not theoretical things, they're actual items that don't happen. And so by changing it when it's changing what will or won't happen, whether or not the dugout will be able to happen, whether or not certain technology will be purchased, it's not a theoretical change. The other part to it is that while there certainly has been discussion back and forth, it is my understanding that the school board did unanimously approve this budget, the current numbers. that they did revisit it and said that it was something they liked. And so I'm not sure that they need this defense from the floor in this particular way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chris Christensen, 27 Great Stone Drive. I know that $250,000 isn't a lot of money relative to an $88 million budget, but I'm just curious what either got added or would be subtracted for that $250,000, if it's one significant item or it's $100 here and $500 there, that type of thing. The other thing that runs through my mind is that the proposed state budget this year, which is, it's only proposed, long way to go, eliminates revenue sharing, and I don't know how that will affect anything going on with our budget process. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shannon Rand, 1 Blair Road. I am a resident here. I've also been an educator. I'm also done many hours within the volunteer community here at Merrimack. I just wanted to be known, just a few things that were brought up. I'm just going to call out some of those things that were brought up for the Budget Committee. And first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for volunteering your time. I do appreciate that. I understand how much time gets taken away from your family to be here. The few things that I wanted to talk about were the $56,000 dugout. I am all for helping our children here in Merrimack, but I'm also here to talk about equity. Where is the funds available for our football players, for our tennis players, for our cheerleaders, for our basketball players? I understand that these dugouts need to be done. However, all of our sporting communities have to fundraise. There is lots of money out there in Merrimack and the surrounding communities, and I highly suggest that all sports teams fundraise and put aside money each year to make the appropriations for these type of improvements. The roof, I'm shocked that we're still talking about the roof after 4 years. I maybe need to get on the committee myself, and I'm definitely looking at that. Is there ways to set money aside each year so that these roofs can get done instead of being blasted? I see people shaking their heads. I work at a particular school, and let me tell you, when there are walls, they tell us, how can we break them down? Is it laws that need to be amended? Is it things that need to be looked at again? But no wall is unbreakable. Also, for the $25,000 for the tables, for the emotional support, all for teaching kids how to be emotionally and socially responsible. I think our educators do a great job doing lunch bunches, taking them back, having that one-on-one when we're talking about this, a population of children who need this extra one-on-one attention. But $25,000 for tables to have this emotional support, there are other things that we can do. So when we talk about appropriate funds and what's going on in our community right now, taxes going up, inflation going up, gas going up, food going up, I ask that we are thoughtful to our taxpayers. I've been here since 1977, purchased my first house in 2004. My taxes were at $3,000. I'm at $7,100 now. It's ridiculous. And I am thoughtfully, and I know that I already passed the deadline for the school board, but something that I will be looking at the future. So I know that you talked about the budget being here today, and you can't make any amendments, but that's why we're here, is to reach out to our fellow voters and say, hey, there are other things that we can continuously do. And yes, we can make amendments here. That's why we have it. That's why we make motions. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good evening. My name is Heather Robitaille at 45 Springfield Circle. Thank you to everyone who's come out tonight and has shared their feelings and their appreciation for our board, our administration, and our budget committee. Listening to the comments that have been made, I believe a lot of the questions that have been raised would have been answered by participating in the school board meetings where our board members, our budget committee members sat and talked to administration about the plans and the thought that has been put into creating this budget. The roofs and the maintenance and the work that our crews do with Matt Chevenel, and they are very well thought out. He goes on, looks at the roofs and looks at the heat signatures. These are not things that are happening because of poor planning. I have sat and listened to presentations on our media and technology and how well thought out a structured yearly plan was. The lunch tables, again, another thing that was part of a step plan to give all students, every last student, the opportunity to be included and to be socially and emotionally supported at school. I think that the state does not do a great job of equitably sharing the funding responsibilities for public education in New Hampshire, and I would encourage our state representatives to address that at the state level and encourage our residents and citizens of Merrimack to ask them to do the same. I believe that the budget is well thought out and put together, and I support both the school board and budget committee for creating it. If there were to be an amendment, I would be willing to support reducing it by the 150,000. If I may not do that, then I will retract that statement.
Not right now, you can't.
I will not then, and I will thank everyone for their time.
I was giving a little leeway there. We should have been specifically talking about changing the dollar amount to the figure suggested, which is dropping it. So if there's any more conversation about that, we'll have it now. Otherwise, we will. Now, this comment's not specifically about the budget itself. It's about dropping the dollar figure by $250,000.
Does that mean referring to the points that were previously discussed or no? I'll step back if it is. I'm just why I'm up here.
Go ahead. We're going to hear it anyway, right?
Oh, I won't take 3 minutes. I promise you. Shane Albuquerque, 10 Westcott Drive. Appreciate everybody's comments. I'm a member of the budget committee. It's my second year, so I'm fairly new to all this. And to be candid, prior to this, I didn't really pay much attention, so I can't speak about the past. But I did want to talk about a few things. One of them is the $25,000 for the tables. This is, just to be clear, this is for every single school. And basically what it is, you know, I was sometimes in this in class, but, you know, sometimes you get a kid that, you know, is stuck at the end of the table and doesn't have any friends and doesn't have any support. And, you know, going through school like that, it's just tough, you know, and that's what this is talking about. If you sit at a round table, nobody's at the edge of it. So I know we're talking about $25,000. I know, you know, people do want to save on their taxes, and I'm with that. I pay a lot of taxes as well. But, you know, this is inclusivity, and it's $25,000 over the whole thing. The softball dugout, I agree. You know, it's only one sport, but it's you know, it's more about equality there. You know, I agree that every sport needs more money, more funding. Turf fields, we could talk about that for days, but that's what that was about equality. On the roofing piece, just real quick, you know, I agree. The roofs, they're horrible. And I don't know if everybody has this capital improvement plan. Maybe it's just me because I'm part of the committees, but I know we've talked about it in public a bunch of times. There's a whole plan for roofing, and, you know, we'd love to throw money in there for that. But, you know, you do $1.4 million in roofs, and then you say, hey, we want to throw another $500,000 in, and it's like, you know, here we are talking about $250,000. You know, how much more can we throw in different places to do roofs? So I'm with that. You know, in general, it's a struggle, and I understand the want to cut this $250,000. I do. I just implore everybody to look at, you know, exactly what it is. And the last piece of this is technology. So we're adding a bunch of technology in, and I don't know if everybody's had the issue working from home and you have a meeting and, you know, the internet goes out. You know, what do? It's the same thing at a school. If the technology fails, if the switches back there that I know nothing about fail, you know, it's a problem and the kids can't learn. So I just implore people, just dig in a little bit before you make the decision on the 250. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this on the budget itself, or is it on lowering the dollar figure?
It's on what we're speaking to right now.
Okay, we'll
Joanne-
get back to that eventually. So,
Okay, Joanne Grobecker, 27 Craig Drive. I just
Yep.
wanted to thank everyone for the time and planning that has gone into this budget. I greatly appreciate it. I'm comfortable removing the 150,000 for the contingency. If Bill Boyd wanted to consider a friendly amendment to remove the 150,000 from his amount.
No, let's. So we're good? Okay. We have a motion. Are you here to speak about the motion? Thank you. You have a yellow card? If you have it, we're good. We're good. We're good. Okay. Just making sure.
Cinda Guayumi, 22 Ministerial Drive. I just wanted a confirmation. Is the amount of the motion at the table the exact amount that was added by the Budget Committee compared to the original approved budget by the school board? Or is it differ? Okay, so literally just a small amount. Secondly, I heard the conversation of the baseball dugout come up, and I just wanted to know if we, by not, let's say that's an item that's cut because that was part of the original ad.
Only the dollar amount can be changed, not
Okay.
individual items.
Okay, and that dollar amount for the
The
baseball-
total dollar amount is what is being
What was
proposed
the-
to change.
what was
Dropped
the
by
dollar-
$250,000.
Okay, pardon me. What was the dollar amount of the dugout?
54,553.
Thank you. Is the Merrimack School District violating any Title IX laws by not putting that dugout in? Is there a need for prudent action?
Laurie?
So if you watch the school board meetings, I spoke in favor of the dugout. It's actually 51 years for Title IX, and schools and colleges are required to have equity for male and female sports. That's why I supported the dugout. I think that it's overdue. We've had baseball dugouts for 50 years, and that's why I was supporting it. I also understand fundraising, but when our children come to school and they're going to play sports, I really think that they have enough to do besides trying to fundraise for something that it's our community's obligation.
Thank you. So personally, I'd be willing to support the motion if it were reduced less that dugout amount, so I will be voting against it. Thank you.
Any other comments on the $250,000 valuation drop? And then we will continue to discuss budget items.
Mr. Moderator, I would like
Yes.
to withdraw my motion of a cut of $250,000.
Do I
And-
have a second? Same person. You good? Yeah, we get it. We'll get it to you. Yep, okay.
And I'd like to make a new motion that the cut be by $150,000, not 250.
Can we do the math on that? We got it. Okay.
So it's $88,427,992.
Okay. Do I have a second? Say that again, I'm sorry. Virginia Hill, Virginia Hill. Get the name there, thank you. Okay, we have a second, go ahead.
I refer all of my colleagues and neighbors to the comments that I made some moments ago. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll get this right this time. We are discussing the drop of the dollar figure by $150,000, not individual items, just the dollar amount.
Mr. Moderator, I would like you to poll the body relative to rescinding the 3-minute rule for the chairman of the Budget Committee.
Is everyone okay with that? I was giving some leeway, and apparently I shouldn't have. So you have 3 minutes.
I would like to remind my fellow citizens that this is not the school board's budget. It is the Budget Committee's budget. The school board, when it is authorized as an operating budget, will have full authority to spend this money or not spend this money as they see fit. Whether it's 200,000, 250,000, 150,000, or 2 million that they do or they don't want to spend, that is within their purview. We are required by law to have a surplus in the budget. Every single year, that surplus is returned to reduce taxes in the town of Merrimack. And I would ask for a little bit more respect, quite frankly, from this body about the statutory obligations and the professional conduct of this budget committee. It's the best budget committee we've ever had in the town of Merrimack, as far as I'm concerned. And it's time people understood what the budget is, how it is generated, and what it does. I have heard a great deal from people who do not understand, and yet they do not ask, they do not come to committee meetings, they don't participate, and yet they come here with some false idea about how they are going to save money on their taxes by reducing an $88 million budget by $150,000. It's an absurd notion that that is going to have any effect on their taxes. And yet, in the school district, what we don't have money for, we can't purchase. We are trying to move ahead. I regret that I did not have an opportunity to fully explain what the vision of the future is for the school district in the town of Merrimack. It is not just this one year. We talked about performing arts centers. Has anybody ever been over to Salem? Boy, they have a nice one in Salem. What's wrong with Merrimack?
Your time is up. Your time is up, Joe.
Why is it that we have to cut?
Your time is up.
No matter how insignificant.
Will you please return to your seat, sir?
All due respect to you, Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
All due respect to you. You are operating, apparently, on a voice poll of the body here relative to how long I can speak. Why don't we make it official? Let's have a vote, an official counted vote of whether or not I can truly represent the committee for which I took an oath of office to perform. I'd like to have a vote. Does the chairman of the Budget Committee have a chance to fully explain the budget and inform the citizens about the important things that they need to take into consideration when they vote?
Will you please return to your seat?
That's what I would like to know.
Will you please return to your seat?
Excuse me?
Will you please return to your seat?
I'm simply very disappointed. And I'm obligated to say that as a resident and an individual in the town of Merrimack. I was born here in 1948. I participated in this town all of these years, and I do not like to be diminuted in my professional statutory responsibilities.
We are talking to an amendment.
Move the question, please, Mr. Moderator.
Is there any other comments or questions on the amendment of reducing the dollar figure by $150,000? I will call the question now. As I mentioned before, all in favor of reducing the line item by $150,000, please raise your card. Thank you. All opposed? Motion passes. We are now back to Article 6. All the words remain the same. The dollar figure has changed to $88,427,992. Are there any comments on the changed Article 6? I'm sorry? Read the number. Okay. 88,427,992, which is 150,000 less than what is printed, in case I did math wrong. Any other comments? If not, Article 6 moves as amended to the ballot. And with that, I have one item I would like to quickly state for the board. I am new to this position, and for the past 12 years, Lynn Christian has been doing this, and I'd like you all to thank her. She's in the back there for her job for the past 12 years. At this time, I will entertain a motion. Motion seconded. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.